You know I love jamming. Welcome to BTG, Bridging the Gap, Strategizing for Student Success. My name is Marissa. I am the founder and editor-in-chief. I have my co-editor-in-chief, my senior contributing writers, Alana, Coach Ray, Dr. P. We are all in the house tonight. Hey, ho. We are continuing to celebrate women. Um, I know that it's women in history, so we are going to go into history tonight, but we're celebrating women. I want to celebrate women today, tomorrow, and all through the year and the years to come. So tonight we're going to focus on women in history. We're going to talk about the importance of giving back to our community, why it's so important for us to show up, to pay it forward, and give back. And so I just want to charge us tonight. Alonda, I'm going to chime you in first because I know you have a big event to go to tonight, and so share a little. You can share a little bit about your event, and then go into what we're going to be doing. Your thoughts about tonight.
So we have a conference coming up, the Confident Woman Incubator Conference, What Women Want, Valuing You on March the 25th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can find the link on my page to go register. But so tonight we're getting women to really think about putting themselves first and knowing that they are valuable, getting in position to add value to their community by first adding value to yourself, putting yourself first to unlock the fullest potential. I will be doing a breakout session talking about not asking for permission to show up and be you. So oftentimes as a coach, I'm always asked, how do you do so much or whatever? And so I always tell people, honey, I show up unapologetically, okay, myself. And, it's just that you have to, because when God calls you to much, you do not have time to stop and ask for permission. When God makes you powerful, you are an intricate piece of his kingdom building. You cannot be worried about who is going to validate you. You cannot ask for permission. God already validates you. You were a part. He orchestrated and architected you specifically as a puzzle piece of his kingdom for his building. And everything that he gave you, you have purpose, you have value. And I think that it's important for people to understand that nobody comes along and validates you. Nobody makes you. Everything that God wanted you to have is already in you. Everybody just comes to ruffle those feathers, just to kind of give you that little push, give you that little shape and that roll. It's like your dough. But God's like, everything, all the ingredients are already there. You just need somebody to come and shape you, which is usually your parents or whoever raises you. Then your community helps to kind of add a little shape here, a little tuck there, a little roll. And so oftentimes you already have all of those things. A lot of times people are not operating in their fullest potential because they're waiting for somebody to say, hey, you, I see XYZ in you. You got to look in the mirror and be like, I don't even know sometimes what I'm going to do, but God give you my yes. So when people call on you, you got to be ready to slide in position. You can't allow fear to keep you bound.
Yeah, no. And this is important. I love what you're saying here. And it's really segueing us to our key subject, Mary Jane McLeod Bethune, and what she had to go through and how she had to own it, right? She had to really, really bridge the gap between, us getting educated as African Americans and, being able to show up the way we need to show up in this country because this is our home, right? We need to show up. But what I really wanted to chime in with what you said, and you said a lot, is that when we don't show up, if you don't show up, one, it weakens your performance. So when you water yourself down, you actually weaken your performance. But the biggest thing too is once you are it's important for you to get it right so that our young people, when they're watching and looking, they can get it right. Because if we're, tilted on what our identity is and how we just not showing up, and then our young people are lost. And that's why it's so important for us to just walk in the fullness of who we are so that we can now focus. so we can have it so together, have our grounding right, and we can focus and show our young people the exact same thing. And so that to me, while you were speaking, was just like, oh my God, it's you wonder why a generation could be lost. It's because if the current generation that is running things is lost, then they're going to be lost and unstable. And that's why we need to get them right so they can go back, get to the communities, and give back. And so, Coach Ray, I want you to share because I know that you are one. You said it while we were backstage and waiting to come live. How much this really speaks to you in regards to giving back, community involvement. Being that we're on Women's Month, give us your man's perspective in regards to how women are showing up in this capacity.
I'll be very, very honest and clear glass. And I just, as much as I have always spoken about how proud I was to have a father and an uncle that were about community and about serving and about helping people reach their potential and giving their all to the community, I would be definitely remiss if I did not mention the women that were intricate in not only my growth but in the production of the community that I grew up in. Um, I speak extremely highly of my mom. I mean, Grant, we talked before, like, it isn't like no mother is perfect. But one thing I could tell you is that when it came to community, that was something that she took on her shoulders. A lot of my friends were able to survive and thrive because she was willing to serve the community and feed and house when and people come by, you needed food and family members needed somewhere to stay. Like that was the intricate part of the community that I think people missed. She was the neighborhood candy lady as well for a little stretch of time. So, so to say what I grew up witnessing with the strength in the communities from the women to where we are now, there was and we got to be honest, there was a drop off at a certain point where the impact of the women in the community kind of fell off because everybody went through that. We had the hot girl summers and we had the self, I'm doing it for me, I'm doing me mentality that went along for a while. I tell her self-care eventually became self-indulge. So we had a lot of that transpired. But I can honestly say now that working in education and working with a lot of people, I see the strength coming back. I'm starting to see a lot of younger educators picking up the mantle to pour back. I can speak for one very specifically that I work with at my school, one of our security guards. I mean, she's awesome. Like those young girls, like they get it from her. Like she ain't pulling no punches. She ain't babying them. This is what it is. She coach, she's one of the basketball coaches there as well. And she gets it in with those girls. She's pouring back into them that tough love, but it's still loving. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing a shift in the mindset of the younger demographic to say, hey, hold on, like I didn't get this. I didn't get what I needed to survive from the generation in front of me. So I got to take back up what I missed. It's almost like I remember a quote from Bruce Lee that said, giving your kids what you never had never meant to be monetary.
Right. Nope. It did. That's giving you right there.
Yeah, I'm giving you the love. I'm giving you the compassion. I'm giving you the empathy that I didn't get. So I'm seeing a lot of younger people and younger women in the education system, in the community, these in-home counselors. I'm seeing a lot of them step up and take those reins and say, you know what, this generation needs us to be better. It's reminiscent of when we had the Black Panther Party. I've always been a big history buff, and that's one of my favorite, groups. Most notably, I found out my aunt was one.
Wow.
So that was a big thing to me. And that caused me to really dive deep into what they stood about and just hearing the stories about how they were on the front lines helping these kids in the community.
Oh, yeah.
With, free lunches, school supplies, picking them up from school so they didn't have to walk home by themselves. Like the community, people can talk about all the negative stuff all they want, but they don't know the details. They don't know
that's to water down the impact.
Right.
That's
The
needed
impact
more
was,
than impact.
it was a great impact. And we
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be able to get that far
And it was
without
working. It
right,
was
the women
working.
putting in the work. Like,
It
if we're
was
going to be
working.
real,
Mm-hmm.
everybody that's intricate in the communities, every male has a woman that said, you go get it. I'm going to take care of this stuff right here.
Yeah.
And then there were women who said, you obviously ain't getting it done. We'll go do it.
Right.
So
Right.
when there is a lack of the women, the strong women in the community, then we see where the drop off is very vast. Yes, the male influence is extremely important, but there's the other side,
Mm-hmm.
the nurturing, the
Yeah.
empathy, the care,
Mm-hmm.
the hugs, the things that these kids need. That
Yeah.
some of these mamas is tougher than some of these dads out here in the streets when it comes to raising these kids.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
necessary. So
Yeah.
for me, it's just a wonderful thing to see a lot of these young ladies stepping up and saying, you know what, we're gonna go get it. We're gonna go do what we gotta do to help these communities be better.
Yeah. 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 And it takes sacrificing because just like you said, there's a balance, right? Moms have to take care of themselves, but they don't have to take care of themselves to the point where they neglect and abandon their children. It's about balance. You gotta fill your cup up so that there's enough in your cup that you can pour it out. So there has to be a balance. Dr. P?
There definitely has to be a balance. And what's interesting, as you're talking about Mary McLeod Bethune, and I think you and I got a chance to talk a little bit about it. I'm thinking about something Alonda said when we're talking about showing up and just recognizing where we come from overall, even just as women, specifically, women of color. And it's not just about that when we're talking about being a woman. Uh, it's just the experience right now, right? Of course, for us to be able to do that. But I got an opportunity last week to just really talk with a woman's group, and that was the common factor: being women, actually being able to hear other women from different backgrounds talk about some of the struggles. And it's important to us, but we're so different. We've carried so much weight on so many things, but that's a blessing. It's not, again, nothing to complain about. What I had shared is back in December 2022, I got an opportunity to do a meeting at the headquarters for NCNW, which Mary McLeod Bethune, of course, founded. And what I did not realize at the time when I got there, drove up, found a parking space, but the Capitol building is right there. You can see it. And I don't think I realized in relation, to where it was. But when we got up there to, I want to say, the third floor, we're sitting there to be able to see that building right here, recognizing that a woman such as herself was able to accomplish what she did. And the headquarters for something just as monumental as NCNW is right there in the heart of everything else in our country, in our government. We as women, we as Black women. I was in awe just because I did not realize. So I say that to say when we're talking about it and what we're still recognizing as women and even as men, what everything we've gotten a chance to do, and we wanting to share that with youth and wanting to share that with parents and just adults, period. Never lose sight of the people from our past, but as well as what we're trying to do now and the people that we all want to become and the people that we're trying to, of course, mentor. But we mentors, we're always being mentored back. Where mentors become the mentee at all times. So when you think about someone like her and just some of the strong mothers and sisters and grandmothers, everyone just having a voice. I speak about having a voice. That becomes so important to me as I realize the more and more people we encounter every day. So many people don't have a voice, male, female, but now we all have that opportunity. And those strong Black women, those strong women, period, that they're what make the difference. So
it's funny that you said that too. I meant to throw in like my one of my business coaches is a woman.
Oh,
Like and most people ain't gonna admit that. Like, my main business coach, she's a woman. Like, and she, Miss Latrice, I don't know if y'all like, she's probably one of the greatest businesswomen minds that I've ever known. And from before, where you got a whole bunch of people telling you a bunch of different things, and just being able to zero in on what she says and how she moves and how she operates, you just like, wow. My business partner is a woman as well. One of them, of course, this Marissa's one, and I got Miss Deborah Fry, but then like the one that helps run my the speaking portion of my business, she's a woman. Mm-hmm. And it's not a question of like it's not that I don't trust dudes. It's just that I know that there are areas that I'm not strong in, and those details can be handled very fine by a woman that I know I'm not going to pay attention to. And I have the trust level to say, you do what you're good at. I'm good as the face of the company, whatever I'm good, but whatever you're great at, you go shine at it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's how you get things done. When you don't let pride or ego interfere. You're just like, who's skilled to do what? Man or woman, who has the proficiency, the skills, and the execution capability. That's who you want, because you just want the results. At the end of the day, you want to live in integrity, but you want the results. Now, I want to go back. The reason why I really brought up Mary Jane McLeod Bethune is because we're getting ready to lose sight of what was done at the foundation. So many of our young people, if you mention his name, they have no clue. And so we got to make sure that we remember. We have to remember so that we don't go back to that level of ignorance or that level of disconnect. So I want to read a little bit because we get passionate, but I like facts. And I want to make sure that we're validated in what we're sharing. So Mary Jane McLeod Bethune was an American educator and a stateswoman. Apart from that, she was a philanthropist, humanitarian, civil rights activist, best known for starting a private school for African American students in Daytona Beach, Florida. She has attracted the attention of many people who contributed with time and money, which enabled the development of the academic school as a college. It later continued to develop as the Bethune-Cookman University. She also was appointed as a national advisor to President Franklin D. Roosevelt. And it also mentions that she was very good friends with his wife as part of what was known as the Black Cabinet. She was known as the First Lady of the Struggle because of her commitment to gain better lives for African Americans. She was the first to not be born into slavery out of her family. And that's huge because here she is. And then her parents went on and they became farmers and they were paid for agricultural work. She goes on to spend her life, devoted her life to ensure the right education and freedom from discrimination for African Americans. Again, she organized, she was a political activist. And we had a little rising up of that for our young people recently with all of the deaths and the revolt. We had a rising up. But what's really heartbreaking is we didn't have adults. We didn't have seasoned adults in place to show what a Mary McLeod Bethune was able to do back then. We have got to have a formula in place. That's why when you started off, Coach Alonda, and talked about women, and you're going to speak to empower these women to use their voice, to stop second guessing yourself and stop self-sabotaging. That's why the sisterhood, that's why I'm not looking at a day to say, what can a day do? We need a mindset of sisterhood. We need a shifting of sisterhood and a realizing that when you come together as a collaborative party and a body, you are unshakable and unmovable. The small-mindedness of jealousy kills what could be done. And so that's why it's so important. Mary Jane McLeod Bethune and women in her day, I'm pretty sure that was all choked. They had some level of it, but they had so much more of the agenda at hand that was more of their attention than the small mindedness of who's got what, this, that, and the other. Coach Ray, you shared something earlier about what was more important, that we give our children things, or that we didn't have, or we gave them something that was priceless that we didn't have. So I know for me as a kid, and I think we talked about this before on the platform about being seen and not heard. That's the saying in the Black community. You better be seen and not be heard. Don't embarrass me and all this other stuff. Well, they won't embarrass you if you take the time to educate them. They won't embarrass you if you take to have time to have real, grounding, wisdom, wise conversations with them. They won't. The thing that I was getting when you were talking about replacing it was, give them your ear so that you can hear what they say. Give them your time, and not only your time, give them your support in person. I remember having to sacrifice. I'm a mover and a shaker, man. When I see all the stuff I'm doing now, that was a sacrifice for me that I honorably, as a mom, took it. I took that. And I was so thankful that I didn't get sold out on that women's lib movement. That I got so caught up in my career that I didn't realize that, hey, if my kid's father is a workaholic and I'm a workaholic, well, who's spending time with the kids? So that was my mindset, to say, I'm going to have to leave corporate. I'm going to have to sacrifice and be home with my children so that somebody is there with them, because he worked like crazy. I worked like crazy. And my substitute spouse, which was my mom, she had left by the time I was 26 years old. I didn't have anyone to pick up my kids from the daycare or the school if they got sick. I had to do it. And I was in corporate at a time. You didn't have the luxury to be leaving your job because you got fired. We did not have the Family Leave Act. We did not have that until later on in my career. And so I had to say, am I going to stay or am I going to go? And I had to sacrifice that. That was huge for the level in which, I am an achiever. But it was so worth it for me, for my children, because like I said, giving them your time and your ear and I was not a perfect parent. But I'm thankful that I did that sacrifice. Is it struggle coming back up? Yes, it was, but I would never change anything because that's so important. Coach Ray, I can see you fidgeting over there, and I'm gonna tap you in.
No, like I'm listening to everything that you're saying, and it makes sense. It's just we have got to get back to where the sacrifices are being made, and the mindset shift happens for the progression of the next generation. And that sacrifice doesn't mean give up your dreams. I think people take it as though like, oh, you can't fulfill your dreams. You can. The people who didn't make the choice not to pursue them, and then they use their kids as the excuse of why they didn't get them. If anything, your kids should have been the linchpin to make you go after it. I know for me as a male, I was, I was a male. I mean, I am a male, but I'm a man. But I was doing, I was being young.
Yeah.
I was being young, and I wasn't pursuing the dreams and the goals that I should have been. When my kids was born, a switch went off in my brain.
Yeah, that does. That happens.
Listen, and it's like, all right, bet. Like, I can't do this no more. Like, I ain't got time to chill. So it's been full. The sacrifices have been made. The sacrifices are made. I don't go out and party like that. I don't have time for that stuff no more. I mean, even before I got married, I wasn't going out partying for real no more. Why? Because I had to make those sacrifices because that money that I was spending could go to my kids.
Yeah.
So what we're at now is we're looking at the mindset of with these women, and I see a lot of younger women stepping into it. It's like, yo, I don't really need to do that right now. I'll get to that later.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pursuing my goals in the process of raising my kids. There was a stretch of time where people were like, I'm just going after what I want. And this is when you get the kids where we at now, where they just was at home, just raising themselves. Because we was chasing something that you could have kept them in your pocket to pursue. You know what I'm saying?
We love you, Coach
right,
Lonnie. See you. Have a good time tonight. Knock them out
hey,
the
good
box.
luck.
Girl. Knock them out
Good
the
luck.
box.
Like that's why I said earlier, it doesn't mean that your dreams and goals end. It just means you have to make a shift. You have to pursue it from another angle. And we got to a point where people were like, "Well, I'm going to get mine." It's like you're gonna leave your kids there to do that? Why are you doing that? And then now we complaining about the behavior of these kids.
Right.
No, you left them to raise themselves. You put a tablet in their hand and walked away. You turned the TV on and walked away. You gave them streaming services and walked away. Because it wasn't bothering you. You could do what you wanted to do while the tablet was raising your kid. The sacrifices had stopped, but now we're starting to see people pick that back up.
Right.
I can pursue my goals and dreams and still be a good, effective parent.
Yeah. And that's such a beautiful thing to see that happen, to see the importance of placing your children. We have a couple of our viewers, one viewer's Facebook. We don't know your name, but they agree about the balance, the importance of balancing. One thing I will say to that too was I can remember when I started getting my nails done. You started getting your nails done and stuff like that, and I remember taking my kids. This was small. I remember taking my kids to the salon, and I remember having my feet done. I was like, there's no way that I could sit here and have my feet done, my hands done, and they watch me. So the attendants was looked at me, but I was like, no, my kids' feet have to go. They have to get their feet done. They have to get their nails done, only to show them that they're as equally as important as mom. They're not under me, because kind of when you have your children watching you get pampered, it's a little something. I just that didn't sit well in my heart. So they got their nails done, and that to me is also balance too. They got their nails done. I made sure that if they wanted a design, they got their design done. Not in a way of spoiling them, but in a way to tell them that this is a standard, that this is something that you should be accustomed to.
Yes.
So
You're a parent.
yeah, I want to do a shout out. So Regina is watching. Thank you so much, Regina, for chiming in. Our children shouldn't be sacrificed for our passion. No, they shouldn't be sacrificed. And there's a way to find a balance. So when I left my job, when I resigned from my job, I still did my business. But the difference between me running my business and having a 9 to 5 was, guess what? I was in control of my time. So when my kids needed to go to on a field trip or anything like that, I did not have to ask for time off. What I did was I did not schedule clients. I had control over my time, but I still had some level of income coming in. And I still got a little bit of me being my little entrepreneurial business self while I would made myself available. Now, did I make the money that I could have made? No, I didn't go in hard. I just made sure that I had something to keep my skill set up to make me still feel like a grown up and an adult while I was able to still be with my children. So that's how I kind of balanced it out. So you can still have your dream. You may not have it to the level, but again, delay is never denial. Just because you have to put something off for a minute doesn't mean it's denial. I am living my fullness right now.
Listen, and you could do that. It's interesting that when people are in pursuit of what they want, they're willing to sacrifice something that's super important in the process. It's so, I remember growing up, and my father worked. My father had his own business, so he worked a lot. Even early on before he started his business, he worked. He's a maintenance guy, so he was always at work. And my mom she worked, but most of the time we would be with her. Like we were with my mom. Like on taking the bus while my dad was at work, we would catch the bus after school. I remember like every Friday, catch the bus all the way down Little Creek, Granby Street to Granby Street, Little Creek Road, Ward's Corner Mall. We go to KB Toys, pick out a toy, catch the number 15 down to my grandma's house. And we would sit at my grandma's house until my dad got off work. We would go to the laundromat with my mom. All that stuff that we did, but it taught us responsibility. It taught us work. taught us sacrifice because we ain't had 2 cars. My mom never got a license. So when we were with her, we caught the bus, we took taxis, we did all so things that I learned at an early age because she was like, who else gonna teach you to do it?
Right.
You know, not that my father wasn't there, he was there, he worked. So I learned work ethic from my father and my grandfather who was a farmer. So I learned that work ethic. But the stuff that like, hey, take care of yourself. Learning how to wash your clothes a specific way, learning how to cook, like all that was the nurturing of my mother. And you know, now we got kids. I see kids on a regular basis. Kids know more about Uber Eats and DoorDash than they know about making their own food. You know what I'm saying? Like I hear kids like they got their users on their parents' credit card so they can order DoorDash. I ain't tripping if you're gonna eat it on a Friday here or there, but they like all week long.
Right. It's a
You
treat.
want to put that credit card bill on Chipotle?
Yeah.
Like, let's teach them the skills that they need to survive.
Right. And then you got to also look at it from this perspective as well. So they're learning to eat like this, and it's unhealthy. And then you have other health issues. Health issues also infringe on your cognition, your ability to learn and focus, depending on what food you're eating. So there's a spiral of bad choices there. Budget wise, how are you affording to do that throughout the and you're not teaching them what is that when you I don't know, am I the oldest one in here?
Are you talking about economic?
I'm not answering that.
Well, it's when you learn how to cook, you learn how to clean. You know, what is that? It's not economics. It's home ec. You're not learning how to do. You're not learning how to do all of those domesticated things, like you said, washing the clothes. And they have no idea, so they're so detached, and the parents are overwhelmed because guess what? They're working their 9 to 5, then they're coming home and cleaning, and then they're coming home and doing all the chores because they did not take the time to teach the kids to do that.
And it's not a punishment, and it's not a gender role or whatever they talk about it now. It's just learning responsibility. That's all it is. It ain't got like I could teach my daughter to take trash out the same way I can teach my son to take trash out. I can teach my son to wash just the same way I teach my daughter to wash dishes. It is you need to know this because you're gonna live on your own eventually, and you better know how to do this because I'm not coming to do it and I'm not paying nobody to do it for you.
Right.
So that we lost the nurturing part to fulfill the tangible part, if that makes any sense. So the things that don't really matter, they're more inclined to get versus the stuff that's important, the nurturing, the understanding, the clarity, how to survive, how to focus. But hey, you can use my credit card and go to the mall. At 13.
Maybe on your birthday, and that's probably it.
Not even then growing up.
That way. Like, in other words, when I'm saying special treats, and you say that to say because we were raised on, I guess, in particular in that work ethic. But think about and we're saying this to people that are younger that are looking at this. One day you're going to college. Don't be that person in the dorm that doesn't know how to do anything for themselves. Because and we all encountered people when we start getting to be adults that was the problem. They didn't know how to cook. It's not they didn't know how to clean. They weren't taught how to clean well at all. Everybody needs to take their own trash out. Everybody needs to clean a bathroom. Everybody needs to clean a kitchen.
Yeah.
Point blank period.
Yeah. So listen, we are closing out. This has been steamy. We've gone from volunteering to making sure the kids are domestically trained, or make sure that we know that they need to be domestically trained. But drawing us back into the importance of giving back to our young people and making sure that, just like Coach Alana said before when she opened up, was making sure that we are right. The reason why, we're not passing on these disciplines is because we're not disciplined. The only reason that can't be transferred is because we're not doing it. And it's almost like you don't know how to delegate. And when you don't know how to delegate, you don't do it. When you're teaching your children, you're delegating to them, you're managing them. You love them, you're a parent, but you have to also manage them as well. And that part of that management is teaching them discipline, teaching them how the house is run. And that is important. And they should have their own credit card, not your credit card. Now, today, they have cards for your young people. You teach them a budget, give them, make sure that they do their chores. They get a set amount of money for their chores, and then that's the money they can go to the mall in. And if they want to go and buy from DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Grubhub, and wherever else, you have a card. Do you have the money to do that? And is that where you really want to spend your money? So, in educating our children, we empower them, and we empower them to be very mature and make responsible decisions. But that only comes, like Alana says, when we know how to do that. When adults, not only parents, but adults, because remember, we talk often about how it takes a village to raise the child. So that means all of us as adults, we all have to get it together so that our young people can get it together. So we know enough and we're knowledgeable. See, the difference between Mary Jane McLeod Bethune and us today is they were very, very responsible. It was no joke for them. Life was serious back then. It was no joke. They weren't looking at little petty nonsense. They were looking at surviving from being tarred and feathered, surviving from being hung. They didn't have any education was the way out. Knowledge, wisdom was the way out. Reading and academics was the way out. Being high in excellence was the way out. That is what our people, when at the beginning of time here in this state, was about. It was about we have to survive and we still have to survive. So we have to get disciplined and we have to get our priorities in order so that we are strong enough, wise enough, and we have learned enough to be able to pass some grounded, rooted wisdom into our young people so that we can start producing some phenomenal, amazing life changers, world changers, and what is it? Interrupters that interrupt the right way, but interrupters that will take this world by storm and make it a better place. So, with that being said, Dr. P, what's your closing statement?
You said that making this world a better place, it's our responsibility. And I'll give it back to them as well, their responsibility as well. It's our responsibility as adults to go ahead and ingrain in our youth who we want them to be. It's the youth's responsibility to, in turn, take it all in, learn as much as you can. There's a reason that you can stand in awe of some of the things that people like Mary McLeod Bethune, Mary Church Terrell, just be able to the fact that if you talk to us, maybe we can even rattle these names off to you because we were taught that. We want you to be able to teach that to the next generation. And then, as you say, when we go back to it, it is our responsibility to don't not lose sight of that. We
Yeah.
have to get a grip, and I'm gonna use that word again as adults and start teaching our children better.
And yes,
They're gonna they're gonna be those that are gonna run our world when we're old and can't do anything for ourselves.
I don't know,
And
man. I don't want y'all
we
be
say that
believing.
we say that in a joking way, but and I also want to say, from what I was saying about the Capitol, sitting there too, knowing that a woman like Mary Bethune Bethune had done that what she had done, and we're right there in the hub, like you said earlier, Marissa. This is our country too,
Mhm.
so we need to let that pride and that life and how life can be tough, but life is worth it. Life is worth fighting for, and the things that we accomplish, you get to see it in the future when you work
Mhm.
hard what you want to make things better. So
Yeah,
you have to
it's
do that.
yeah, it's so important. Just think,
Mhm.
her parents were born into slavery.
Mhm.
She was not born into slavery, and she was the advisor to the president. That's how much she did.
Yeah.
That's how much she did in her community and giving back. That's where she positioned herself. And that's incredible. I mean, incredible that her mindset was to create a college, first to create a school, then to take it to the next level to create a college, and then to become so influential that she was advising the president. Coach Ray, your closing comments?
Oh man, it's a lot to sum up in a few statements, but I will say this: gentrification happens because the value of a community is lost. How
Mm,
that value of a community is lost is because the group that is supposed to care the most about it forgets to care about it.
Mm.
When we lose something that's so valuable like land, places of business, homes, it's not because the other people just were vindictive. They just did what they do. They're business people. It ain't personal.
right.
We lose it because we don't hold it as a valuable asset. And it's when we're trying to save a generation, we have to treat them as though someone is coming to gentrify them. This next generation has been gentrified by people compromising ideals, compromising their faith, compromising what we once knew was important. And I'm not just talking about any specific race. I'm talking about all kids. The next generation has been gentrified because of the lack of care for them. If we don't figure out how to get back in control and figure out how to reestablish the mindset of how important it is to influence the next generation positively, we're going to lose this entire nation.
Mm.
So I say that, and I close with: stop compromising your ideals for your fun and your selfish endeavors, and put the next generation in front of what you want. Pursue your goals, but pursue them with the mindset that the next generation should be able to pick up the mantle and run further than you did.
Right, right. Very good. I can't add nothing to that because that is so dead on, like dead on. And so with that being said, I want you to lift your heads up high. Listen, because we can do this thing. We can change things around. Delay is never denial, and God didn't mean us to be perfect. We're not perfect, but we can change things around and begin to change our mindset and be open to change and shifting shift. If you know that you've not been giving back to your community, if you've not been volunteering, give back to your community. I know Coach Ray, you just been appointed to do some work in your community. Could you just, and we're going to close out with that, can you share a little bit about what you've just been appointed to do?
I've just been appointed. One thing, I've just been appointed as a board member of the YMCA of Southampton Roads. So I will be my base is the YMCA on Indian River. So that's where I'm at, underneath Miss Margaret, who's awesome, by the way. Also, I was just hired as the youth and family coordinator at First Baptist South Hill, to take over that entire department and help bring the next generation to God. And it's just,
Yeah,
there's no two ways about it.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm an unconventional person. I don't believe in the traditional mindset about youth ministry. Miss Latrice ain't groomed me to be like that.
Right.
I believe in stepping outside of the box so I can see the problems inside the box. So we're going to get these kids, and we're going to save this youth, and we're going to save this. We're going to work.
Yeah, and that's it.
That's
And
it. We're going to work.
Yeah, and then that's what it takes. It just takes us doing the work and operating from a place of love and the bigger picture. And so, with that being said, we love you so very much. It is Thursday. It's Thursday night. That means tomorrow is what? Friday. So, we want to wish you a wonderful weekend. Enjoy yourself. Be safe. And we will see you next Thursday.
See y'all next week.
Bye, everybody.